Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of the Oracle Apex Office Hours. My name is Shakib Rahman, and I'll be your host for today. I'm also an architect on the Oracle Apex team, and we've got an exciting show for you here. So before we get started, I'm going to jump into the announcements and updates, just a few of them really quickly. As always, you can watch the replay of last week's Office Hours by going to apexoracle.com/office hours, and you'll see Marc's session, which is a sneak preview of all the new features in Apex 22.1. We also have a number of in-person conferences coming up very soon. So in fact, tomorrow, there's the Apex Alpha Adria conference, followed by Apex Connect happening in early May. There's also the Great Lakes Oracle conference happening a little bit later in May 10th through 12th, where I'll be there, as well as Jason Haynes and Jason Straub from the Apex development team. And then there's also the Kscope conference that's happening a bit later. We also have a very exciting session in the Oracle Apex Hours in Espanol. So if you're a Spanish speaker, I encourage you to check this one out. This is happening on April 28th, and this will talk about the new features in Apex 22.1. For the release of Apex 22.1, we're working on a 5-part series of Office Hours to really show you all the different capabilities and features that are going to be there in this release. So the first session was last week, and that was the sneak preview. It was really trying to give you an overview of everything that's in that release. Today, we're going to be talking to you about the approvals component, the data generator feature, tokenized search, and some faceted search enhancements. Next week, we're going to discuss new and updated components, REST-enabled SQL queries, easier application installations. Followed by that, on May 5th, we'll be talking about persistent authentication, PWA enhancements, and user experience enhancements. And finally, on May 12th, we're going to talk about all the developer experience improvements that are going into this upcoming release of Apex 22.1. So with that being said, today is all about the approvals component, data generator, tokenized search. And I have with me 3 speakers from the Apex development team. I've got Ananya Chatterjee, Carlos Maciel, and Alexis Galdamez. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand it over to Ananya, and she's going to talk to you about the approvals component and the unified task list, which is new in Apex 22.1. Right? Take it away, Ananya. It's all yours.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Apex Office Hours. This is my first time in the Office Hours presenting to you. And I'm presenting a new feature in Apex 22.1. It's called the approvals component. And let me share my screen. So before the demo or walkthrough of what the approvals component is about, I would like to present a slide deck showing and explaining a few concepts of what the approvals component is all about, just to make the demo easier for you to follow. So what this approvals component is, it is one place for management of all your approval tasks, which means all kind of business scenarios which require any kind of human approval. You can think of purchase requisitions, travel requests, expense reimbursements, employee onboarding, etc. What we also offer is an out-of-the-box unified task list page, which can be created using the Create Page wizard in 3 steps to show all your tasks which you can work on, or which you have initiated or requested, or which you want to administrate. And it is integrated into the Oracle Apex App Builder. There is almost no coding required for this. It's all available as declarative components via new page processes that got introduced. And the demo will show all of that to you. So in the heart of the approval task management is the concept of task definitions. Basically, for any kind of task that you create, you want to configure the settings of the task. So that is what you do in a new shared component that is available to you under workflows and automations, and it is called the task definition, where you define the properties of the task, who all are going to act on the task, what are the parameters or details that you want included in the task, what is the system of record for which this task is going to be. For example, if you're doing employee onboarding, then employees is your system of records. For purchase requisitions, it is your requisitions table, which is the system of records. So those details are all configured in the task definition. If the task is an urgent one, then you can define the priority there. You can define a due date there, and so on. Moreover, you can also define actions you want on the task. Once a task is approved or rejected, you might want an email to get sent to the requester of the task. So all those things can be configured using the task definition, which I will show you shortly. And as I was talking about the unified task list, this is available via the create page wizard as a new component. And it allows you to create a page in your application where you can see all the tasks that you need to work on across applications in your workspace. So it need not, the unified task list can be in a separate application, and it will still show you the tasks from all other applications using the approvals component. So I will go through that also in the demo. The way the tasks can be also clicked via the unified task list is that you can manage the tasks via clicking them on the unified task list. Manage in the sense you can approve them, you can reject them, and all of these are configured in a task details page, which gets also generated via the task definition when you're configuring the task, which I will also show you. And you can, I will also show you how you can use it declaratively in your page as a new page process and configure it. So this is another slide that talks about the very same task details that I talked about now. Though the task details gets auto-generated, it is customizable. You can customize it according to your own requirement to show more than what is already being shown there. For example, the history of what all happened to the task, who all worked on it, who all commented on it, if somebody approved it or rejected it or increased its priority. All of that can be viewed through the task history, which is available by default out of the box in the task details. But in addition to that, you can add more details to it, which I will show. So I will jump over to the demo. And in between, if there are questions, my co-panelists will be answering them. If you want something to be answered live, Shakib can interfere and let me know. So let me go to the sample approvals. This is a sample application which demonstrates the features and functionalities of the approvals component. And this is also available to be downloaded from the gallery itself. So, and each page in this sample approvals application contains an about section which tells you comprehensively how you can go ahead and create this out of the box. So at the heart of the approvals management is the concept of multiple users who are going to act on the task. First of all, you have the person who is requesting for something. In this demonstration, we will demonstrate a job change request being sent for employees. So employees is the system of records this approvals component is interacting with. So here you see all the employees in the demo environment, and say for James or for Ford, I want a job change request to be initiated. I am here logged in as Steve, one of the users. There are 4 actors who you will constantly see operating with the task during this demo. They are Steve, Jane, Pat, and Bo. And some of them will be owners of the task who can approve and reject the task. 1 or 2 of them will be business administrators who can escalate a task, or if the task is not being acted upon soon enough, assign the task directly to somebody to act on it. So let me go ahead and, as Steve, request a job change for Ford. So you see there is a proposed job here. So it's being requested that Ford be promoted to manager. And Steve submits this request. What this essentially does is that it creates a task behind the scene. And Steve can go ahead and look at what the task got created in the My Requests page, which is one of the pages that got created using the unified task list create page wizard. The task you see at the top, because it is sorted by created date here, you can also sort it by due date. So this is the one that just got created, and it is an unassigned state. This is the state that a task has when a task can be acted upon by any one of multiple owners. We call them potential owners because any one of them can act on it. So I log out of this system and I log back in as Bo, who is one of the potential owners configured for this task. So I log in as Bo. And when I log in as Bo, I will go to the My Approvals, which is another unified task list, which is with a different view where you can see tasks on which you're supposed to act. So this one was sorted by due date. Let me sort it by create date to see the one that Steve just created. There are 2 ways to act on a task. If you don't want any further information, you don't want to see the details of the task, you can directly approve or reject it from here. But if you want to really look at what is going on with this task, you have to open it. And this is the task details which is configured for the task. And here you see the new job that is being requested for his manager. And say Bo wants to act on the task. So Bo says he first has to claim the task in order to act on the task, because there are other potential owners who could potentially act on the task. So he has to claim the task. He can leave a comment claiming this one to act on it. Adds a comment here and claims the task. Once he's claimed the task, you see the approve and reject are available for him to act on. Say he does not want to act on it, he decides to change his mind, he can still do that. There are two options that are available to him now. One is delegate, by which he can directly delegate the task to another of the potential owners who will directly then work on the task. Otherwise, if he's not sure who is going to pick up the task next, he can release the task, which means any one of the potential owners of the task can take up the task, claim it, and act on it. So right now, let him delegate it to Jane because he doesn't want to act on it. So he leaves a comment for Jane, delegating this to Jane to approve, and leaves a comment for Jane and delegates it to Jane. Once a task is delegated, it is automatically removed from Bo's task list. Bo will no longer be able to act on it because it directly belongs to Jane, and Jane and only Jane can act on it now. Say Jane is being a little lazy about this, that always happens. We have Pat, who is coming into the scene now, who is an administrator for setup for this task, and Pat wants to see what's going on with this task. Why is the promotion not yet done? So he can look at the approvals administration page, which is again another unified task list with a view for all tasks you're capable of administering. And this is the one he's seeing. It's due 48 hours of, and nobody's acted on it. He has a little concern and he decides to raise the priority. It was medium until now. He wants to make it urgent, and he sets the priority to urgent so that nobody can miss it now. And now I sign back as a Jane, and the first thing I see in my my approvals inbox is I see this urgent one, and I can no longer ignore it. So I don't even want to go ahead and see what's going on with this one. I can see it's urgent. I approve it. I can approve it from here itself, and the task is approved. When a task is approved, the requester can go ahead and see what went on with the task, whether it got approved, rejected, what. And there are two things that which essentially happened here. You can see in the request, in his my request, Steve sees that the job got completed. He can look at the history of the task, what all went on with it. He sees the comments that were there, and he can expand the history section and look at it. You see all of those things that had happened here are logged for him to view. Both the business administrator as well as the initiator can look at it. So this completes one cycle of approvals management. And there is one other thing I wanted to show you here. So this was for Ford, right? And Ford is now a manager. So you see the employee system of record got updated behind the scene through the approvals component, and I will quickly also show you that there was one on the inbox. You see there is an email configured, and you see that the job change for Ford was completed and Steve was notified of it. So there is one more thing I wanted to show, that is with the salary change. If you want to change the salary, let me start a salary change request for Alan here. I will make this short. I won't go through the entire cycle in the interest of time. Just want to show you that the task details can be configured differently. Let me make it a little bigger. And I submit a salary request change. In my request under salary change, I can actually, if there are too many requests, I can actually search also by the task type, whether it's salary change or job change or something like that. I can do that. And I really want to narrow this down to salary change. And I can click here. And if you observe the salary change task details page here, its look and feel is quite different from what you saw, for the other job change details. This actually shows that the task details can be configured in addition to what you have out of the box. Let me quickly take you to the application builder where this all was built, and to actually prove that there was not little or no coding required here. In the heart of approvals management is the shared component under workflow and automations, which we call the task definitions. And as I showed you, there are two kinds of tasks which you saw throughout this application. One was job change, the other was salary change. Let me show you the salary change one. In the task definition section, you have the usual suspects, the name, static ID. This is the subject that you were seeing throughout in your inbox, in the my requests, my approvals, also in the task details. This is where you set the priority. This is an optional due date that you can set. This is the URL of the task details. So whenever you create a new task definition, this is usually empty, and you have an additional button here called create task details page, which creates and generates that out of the box task details page and sets the URL over here for you. This action source is actually telling the task what is the system of records with which the task is going to interact throughout its journey. In this case, it is the employees, the demo employee table. This is where you also configure the participants of the task. And as I was explaining earlier, these were potential owners who are supposed to approve or reject, claim the task, delegate, etc. And you also have the administrator who has special powers like increasing or decreasing the priority or delegating it directly to someone. So you can have them as expressions as is shown here, so that it can be dynamically populated based on some other system of records, or you can have static values as you want. Parameters is what the default out of the box generated task details page will always contain in the details section. So the new salary, in the job details, you were seeing the the new job that was coming up. So that is the task parameters, and each of these task parameters are available as bind variables for you to use, not only in the action source, but also here in the where you have the task definition actions defined. So this is a very special power that allows those emails to get sent when a requester is actually happy with seeing that the task has been approved, but he's not even going into the task list and seeing. Then how does he know? He knows it through the email that got sent to him that look, for Ford, his promotion was completed. So this is where you can create an action on several different kinds of events that go on in the task. There are two types of actions that we support. One is executing a PL SQL code, and the other is sending an email. And these are the different events that get fired when a task is claimed, completed, delegated. So for each of these operations that happen on a task, you can, in case of complete, you can further decide whether you want an email to be sent only if it's approved or if it's rejected. So for each of these different kind of combination of task events, you can have an action configured. So this is what the task definitions does. I will quickly show you how a request job change that you were seeing there is a page that is using it declaratively, that the particular task definition which I just now showed to you. So here you see that in the processing section, you will see a new page process of type human task create. There is another one called human task manage, which the task details uses for all the operations. So here, whenever you choose this, you have a choice of choosing the task definition. It assumes you will at least have one task definition associated in your shared components. You can override the subject and priority if you want. If you want something exclusive for this particular page, you can do it here. If you want the initiator not to be Steve or the logged in user, you want it to be set dynamically through a page item, you can do that here. You can specify a details primary key item. This is what ties the task to a particular record in your system of records, in this case, your employee. So this is how you configure it out of the box. There is absolutely no coding required here. You can define the task parameters here. In this case, it was a new job. You can tie it to a page item here. And last but not the least, I will show you how all of these are unified task list. If you see here, my approvals, the ones that I was showing you in the demo, and you can actually create it very simply here using this new component that we have introduced called the unified task list. And in the unified task list, if you see here, there is a thing called the report context, which is by default my tasks. And there are three possibilities for this one. My tasks allows you to create a page which will show you all tasks for which you can approve, reject. You're basically going to act on the task as an owner. Admin tasks are ones where you see tasks of which you are a business administrator, and initiated by me is it will create a page for all your tasks which you have initiated or requested for across all your applications. As it explains here, if you wanted to act for multiple applications across applications, you have to set up the session sharing business. I think that was pretty much it on the demo side. if there are any questions or comments which have not been answered or want to be answered live, please feel free to let me know. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thanks so much, Ananya. That was wonderful. A lot of engagement in chat and a lot of comments as well. So please keep them coming. Our panelists will answer those questions as we have them. Next, I'd like to pass it on to Carlos, and he's going to talk about the data generator feature in Apex, which I think is something that everyone is really going to enjoy. Right? It's off to you, Carlos.
Thanks, Steve. Hi, everyone. I'm Carlos Maciel, manager of the Apex development team in Mexico, and I'll show you this new feature in Apex 2021, the data generator. The data generator is a powerful tool that allows you to create blueprints. This can have tables with columns and custom data sources, which can be used for creating thousands of rows of data that can be either exported in different formats or inserted into existing tables in your schema. So you can use this to prototype your new tables, verify the kind of information that will be stored in them, or to test drive applications in your Apex development environment way before going to production. So let me share my screen. And all right, so from the builder, you will be able to see the new data generator in the SQL workshop menu, utilities, and right here, and you will be presented with this page. Let's take it here. Right, so from here, you will be able to create blueprints in 3 different ways. I'll show you them in a second. You can create from existing tables, you can create one from scratch, or you can import a compatible JSON file. So let's use the existing tables feature. Here, all we need to do is select our table or tables, provide some friendly name here, and you will be redirected to the blueprint designer in a few seconds. So here, the blueprint designer is intended to work similar to the text designer. Actually, on the left, you will see the tree view of the table that we just imported, into blueprint with all the columns that came with it. In the center, you will have the property editor, which you can modify the properties of the individual nodes here. And on the right side, you will see the help text for any of the items that you select. So from here, you can preview the data, generate data, save any changes that you made to the configuration. You can export the blueprint or delete the blueprint right here under the range icon. You can add new tables, add new columns as needed. So let's dive into what is the data generator doing right here. So the API in the backend takes all the columns from this table and tries to match the type of data and the name to a kind of a data source that makes sense. All of these columns will be tied to a data source. In this scenario, you'll notice that all of the data sources are called built-ins. So what are built-ins? So essentially, we are adding out of the box, including already in this feature, a bunch of data sources that you can use for your data generation. And we have a lot of stuff like you can have island information, languages, shapes, animals, colors, countries, departments, food, pets, school, and many more that you can use for all of these columns. How does it look like? So by clicking on the preview data, you will be able to see the data generator doing its magic in the backend and showing you, okay, so if you want to produce data for this specific table, these are the data that is coming out. So you have your IDs, you have your product name, you have your sale date, emails, some other numbers. And you'll notice that some of this stuff is, accurate, like the date or the numbers here, but some of the other columns have like Latin text, which is kind of not accurate to what we need. So let's change it. Going back to the data sources, I'm using built-ins, and there's probably something that I can use here. So we have, product names. Now, let's see the change now in our table. Right, so now we have jeans, we have some hoodies. So now we have some more real world scenario data to play with. So there are other options of the data sources, of course. You can use built-ins, You can use custom data sources, which come from SQL queries or existing tables in your schema. You can have some inline custom values that you want to add, some sequences, which are numeric sequences actually, on formula, which just handle PL/SQL transformation for the texts or the numbers or any other transformation that can be done with PL/SQL functions. I'll show them in a few minutes. For now, let me quickly help you discover how to test drive your applications with this. So let's say they have your sales application right here. You have a few, sample data. You want to really say how is this application going to behave with a bunch of rows inserted into it. We can use the data generator for that. By clicking generate data, we have a couple of options here. We can export the data, or we can, because we created this blueprint from a table in our schema, insert back into the table. There are a couple of methods here. One inserts one row at a time, and the fast insert row inserts a bulk of inserts in one go. The difference is really if we have one error, if I insert one of the rows, you can keep inserting into others, but there's really not much a difference. For row scaling, though, you can select how many rows you want inserted into a table. By default, we have 50 rows. But you can, expand this to a total of 500 rows, or let's say 1,000 rows. So let's insert 1,000 rows into our table. All right, so let's see how this looks like in our application. All right, so now we can see, okay, so I need some other variety of products. Maybe I need to modify the unit codes a bit more. Maybe I need to change the table. Maybe I need to change how the report shows up. But I can already test drive my application with a bunch of rows of data. And I didn't have to do, a very complicated procedure to insert in a loop or any other complicated mechanism to update the values in this table. Okay, so now let's see about the other option, create a blueprint from scratch. So I can show you how the different data sources work. We go back to the table, we go back to create blueprint from scratch. We just need some friendly name here, maybe some description, maybe not. And here's the option to add a starter table. This will create a table with a bunch of columns. Each of them will have different configurations, and a custom data source will be added as well. All right, let's take a look. So in the ID, we have a sequence, which is just a numeric sequence that starts with 0 and increments by 1. We have first name and last name, which are built-ins using our, the provided data source that we add to this feature. We have a formula right here. The formula actually takes the first name column, the last name column. It's just appending something. It's just adding company.com, and it's using a lower function here to create our custom emails for our records. The birthday is a date, a random date in the past. We can identify the minimum date, the maximum date, the format mask that we want to use. The skill set is an inline value, which is interesting because you can define manually which values you want and the frequency which they will appear. So the higher the number, the more frequent this value will show up in the records. We also mark this with multi-value, delimited by colon. That means that we will have several values in one single row. We have another that is called a salary, which is a random number from 1,000 to 8,000 with value precision of 2, which is 2 digits for the salary. We have a custom data source for the shirt size. This one comes from a custom query that returns shirt size, width and length and other columns that we can use to link it to our column here. So let's take a look on how this looks like here. Interestingly, now we have the sequence, the first name, the last name, the email, which is the formula, And we have some skill sets here, multiple values in one single row. We have salary or shirt size, and you'll notice some null values as well, because some of these columns you can define if you want null values and what percentage of the values should be null and what percentage should be real data. So let's generate data. We can click from here as well. And you'll notice that you don't have the option to insert back into a table. And this is because there's no table in the schema that matches the name of the table, and there are no columns that match the exact name of the columns on given a table. So this option will be enabled only if there's a match in your schema. Otherwise, you can export it with CSV values or JSON or SQL inserts and insert back into something else that you might need. So let's take a look and generate something here. This value, let's just save this one, and we have our friendly name blueprint right here. We have our IDs, we have our names, and you can pretty much do whatever you want with this data. Now that it's out, you can define, I need more modifications in my blueprint. I need to modify something else in my target table, or I can populate some other system with this information. All right, let's close this. And finally, let me show you how to import a blueprint. So a compatible blueprint looks something, let me share this with you guys here, like this. You'll have a blueprint format version, you have a description, you have a language, you have, if you have data sources, they will appear here, you have tables, you have some columns which will indicate sequence, all the configurations that are needed. They can be obtained by exporting a blueprint from any other workspace, and you can import it back right here. You can copy paste it, or you can just drag and drop the blueprint right here. You can override even the name if you don't like the name that comes from the JSON object, and this is the result. And you're ready to go. So to summarize, this is a new feature that allows you to do fast prototyping of tables and add a big volume of data and test drive your applications. You can create blueprints from scratch, using existing tables in your schema, or bringing a blueprint in JSON format from other schema or other environment. This is the first iteration of this feature, though. So of course, there are some improvements that we will make on future releases, and we are really excited to hear your feedback. So that's it for me. Let me know if you have any comments or questions that I could answer right now or later.
Cool. Hey, thanks so much, Carlos. That was an awesome demo. Data generator, again, I think it's going to be a feature that people can use to really populate tables and even just generate sample data, right? So there's so many times I've been to a website just to go generate some data, and now I can do it directly within Apex. I don't have to leave my window. It's all right there. Cool. All right, so next up, I'd like to pass it on to Alexis Galdamez, and he's going to talk about the row search improvements and faceted search improvements in Apex 22.1. Take it away, Alexis.
Thank you, Shakib. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis, and I will talk on this section about the search improvements to Apex and faceted search enhancements. So without any further ado, I'm going to share my screen to take a look at a few examples for search improvement. In which problem this new feature solves. So if a new user is taking a look to your application and they see this faceted search, they are used to look for information on a certain way. They see a search field and they see data and they think that they could type any words and the search engine will try to find as much hits as possible. So if they say, oh, this is a list of customers, I want to look for all the customers on US on the city of Detroit. They only type Detroit, US, but they don't get anything. So probably they go to the entirety report and maybe try to look on these two and they say, I want to look for any project which is completed and include the words develop. And they don't find it either. They could type completed in %, well, there's a typo there. And after that, include the words develop. And they will find what they want, but they will feel that this is not natural. This is not how they are used to do it. And they will feel a bit frustrated about it. So we intend to make the search a bit more natural, to make it more user-friendly. So we added a new attribute on the application that can tell us the way how the search engine interprets the search terms, which is called tokenized row search. When enabled, it will revamp the whole search capability of your Apex application. So now if we go to a faceted search, and well, it's already there, but if they're looking for US Detroit, it will find all the rows that are on US and Detroit. They could also use any columns, doesn't matter the order. You could type a Kyle and South, and it will work. So the user will be happier because when the user finds your application for the first time, that is the behavior that they are used to when searching for things. Now, if we go to interactive report, you type a completed develop. So you want to look for any project which is completed and includes the word develop. And develop, and you will find it. You don't even have to type the whole word, so you could say comp and something like that, and it will find because any token will try to match to a word on the different columns, and which is great because it's a more greedier search algorithm. But what happens if the user wants to be more specific? The user wants to make an exact match of the data. We can also do that using a search operator. So again, if I want to look for all the projects which are completed, but include the exact phrase, develop an application, they could use the double quotes, that anything that is on double quotes will be treated as a code token, that it will be, it needs to match completely. So you can say completed, develop an application. So it will match exactly any record that has the word completed and develop an application. It could be the case that the data includes double quotes as part of itself, and there's always an option to escape these values. So we can take a look. I want to take to find any row that includes management and the exact phrase to manage resources, which manage is on double quotes. So you can put management, double quote, to escape the search operator, you need to type the double quote twice, and that means that the engine will ignore it. And sources, and that is it. Now it will find it. So with this, we are more flexible. We will try to match as much hit as possible. But if the user wants to be more specific, they could use a double quote to do exact searches. The days are gone when the user type a few words that, although they were contained in the row, we didn't show those values because they were on different columns or they were written in different orders. So now it will be easier to look inside our Apex applications. This new improvement is not limited to faceted search, to interactive reports. It could be included to interactive grids, pop-up LOB, and in general on any component that is using row search in your application. For plugins developers, this is available too if they are taking advantage of the row search in Apex. This new flag, which is called tokenized search, is enabled by default. So if you're creating a new application, this will be the new behavior. And if you already have an application and want to take advantage of this new behavior, you only need to go to the application definition on the properties and change the attribute tokenized row search to on, and that will work completely okay. So that will be regarding the new search improvements for row searching on Apex. And now we are going to take a look to faceted search enhancements. For faceted search, we focus on this release on make things easier to interact with, to make the life of the user, to make the component more user friendly. So if you have been, well, I nearly crashed, but happily didn't. So now you will see a few improvements on the way that we interact with the component. Let's say take a look to the search field. If we are searching for some word, let's say FA, we don't need to clear it. We don't need to click the field anymore and click the field and then press enter. You can only go to the field and press the X icon, which will clear the value and refresh the report too. This improvement was added to the client-side filtering. So now if you are searching for one facet option, you will be able to remove the values, which it makes easier. Also, on the client-side filtering, when you are searching for anything, we will highlight what you are searching for. So for example, here you can see that if I put I, it's highlighted, which is a small UI improvement, but it's always nice to make it better. Another change that if you have been working with faceted search, probably already noticed it, is the lack of the show chart button. But don't worry, the action hasn't gone. We're still being able to show chart, but now it's under the context menu. The context menu is applied per facet, and we have a few actions there that we could use to control the facet. On this case, we only have two actions, which is filter and show chart. Show chart will do the same that I did before. It will trigger the chart and it will display the values. And we have another action, which is called filter. The action filter will allow the user to control, to toggle on and off the client-side filtering. So if a facet is too large, they will be able to toggle on, or if they don't like to use the client-side filtering because they believe that there are not so many options, they could keep it off. The Apex will remember this change. This will be saved on the browser session storage. So between, if I re-render now and I click this to enable, it will still be enabled on my page. We also, which is here. So we also have another action, which is the hide facet. So if you go to a facet and take a look to the attribute display toggling, let this reload. It's a bit slow now. Well, sorry for that, but it looks like my computer is a bit slow for the moment.
That's okay. There's a couple of questions coming in the chat as well.
Oh, well,
so
nice.
while this is
I can address them.
So here's a question for you. Are you using Oracle text to perform this kind of search?
No, we are not using Oracle text. The Oracle text option is still available, so you can still use it. This is more a basic search, which is still more greedy, but it's not that complex as Oracle text. So if you need a more complex algorithm to look for text, you will still need to use Oracle text.
Okay, great. And there's another question here. Is it possible to write AND conditions for two or more words in this tokenized row search for values in different rows?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So can we use AND, like AND all
Oh, no, at the moment it's not possible to use any condition. The only search operator that exists is the double quote that allows you to search for its exact match.
Got it. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, carry on. I'll let you know if there's more questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Shakib. So now if we go to a facet, let's say account manager, and we enable the display toggling, and we reload our page. Let me only save this. Let me only reload. The new action will be on the context menu. We will see in a moment that the new high action will be on the facet. So we put it on the account manager, which probably is hidden now. Let me enable that. So now under the account manager, we can see the hide facet action, which will allow you to hide that specific facet. There is more controls for the developer of which actions are going to be displayed. So if a developer wants that a facet has the client-side filtering enabled and the user doesn't have the option to remove it, they could remove the filter action and enable the display filter initially button, and that will remove this option from the actions menu. And now that facet will have the display client-side filtering always. So now we can see on the city that the client-side filtering is there, and the user cannot remove it. If you have seen while I was showing this application, there is a few facets where the option filter is not there or is disabled, and that is because if the options is less than the maximum display enters attribute, we are not showing the client-side filtering, and we also not showing the not being able to click the filter action. That is to avoid to show like two options and show the client-side filtering when not needed, and we'll be using a space on our UI, which is not nice. If the developer doesn't want to show the context menu, because many times less is more, we can go to the Apex builder, remove all the actions and save. And if Apex detects that there is not any action for the context menu, the menu won't be rendered, and the facet will have a cleaner UI. So now we can see here that for the city, the context menu doesn't appear. So you can see here that there's nothing from the city. We don't have the client-side filtering, we don't have the context menu, and it's completely clean. There have been another improvements for the functionality of the facet search. For example, if you have a large facet on this for the cities, and you are interacting with other facets, we won't collapse that facet anymore. So if it's showing all the options, it will keep showing all the options until you decide otherwise. That is good, because if the options are a lot, you don't want to be going down and showing all and showing clicking show less every time that you click another filter. And when you are interacting with the same facet, we don't collapse that facet too. There has been another accessibility improvement for this component, which will allow any kind of users to take advantage of it. For example, the keyboard navigation has been improved. Now, any control, independent of the control type, we have only one tab stop, which is quite nice. Also, when you are using the configuration to disable the option that doesn't have any data related to it, or when count 0 equal disable. In the past, it wasn't possible to focus them, so a screen reader couldn't read those values, but now you're able to focus them, and the screen reader will say that that option is disabled. So that will be all regarding the faceted search enhancements. And that is for this section. We took a look to the search improvements and how easy it is to enable this new way to look for things inside Apex. And we also took a look to the faceted search enhancements and how we are trying to make things more natural. So I'm not sure if there are any more questions on this section.
We do have a few more questions, Alexis. So I have a couple here for you. One of them is an interesting one from Arun. He asked if I wanted to have search on something that is not actually on the page. For example, if you go to Amazon, you search up a bunch of products, right? You go to a search results page. How do you do something like that? Like how would you go about that type of building that kind of search experience?
If you want to search for something that is not on a page,
right?
Well, I think that it will depend of the implementation, because it could be possible to do that, but I'm still thinking.
I'm thinking maybe one way to approach this is like, I would probably put a search bar in the header of the page, and then you search something in, you hit enter, that then just really feeds that search term to another page where you have search results, and then you can then build the search results kind of
yes, I think that would be a nice idea, and more now that we have the hooks for the smart filters, that it could be added to the top of the header. So yes, definitely that would be a nice answer.
So hopefully, Arun, that answers your question there. There's a few others. This one here is from B Instiful. Apart from that double quote, can you use other helper expressions such as question mark, stars, and the likes for exact matches? Is it just the double quotes?
Yes, at the moment the only search operator that we are using is the double quote.
Okay. Can you do a range search?
We could do range search using the exact syntax for the date mask, but at the moment it's not native that you can select a date range item, but it's on our list of improvements for faceted search, but it's possible to do it.
Okay, great. Let's see. The simple one here is date picker available on the faceted search. That answer is no, not yet.
No.
But we hope to have something in a future release. There were some questions about like how those facets are sorted. So when you have your page right here and you have country, city, NLS territory, the question from David Johnson was like, what if I wanted to have city above state? So maybe show how that's sort of configured.
Yes, if you want to have a facet above another one, is that easy as moving that facet to the next slot. So for example, if I want city to be on top of everything, you can only move it on the Apex builder, and now city will be on top of all the other facets. If it's loads.
Hope that answers your question, David. Let's see. Arun has a follow-up. If you have lots of rows, could you facet all those? Could you fetch all those to that hidden page? It could be millions, right? So I think that really just depends on what kind of search behavior you're trying to build here. So you can totally have millions of records and you want to search across. You may want to use some kind of text index or maybe some query optimization here. But I think it just comes down to what are you trying to search, and then displaying that information in a way that makes sense and that user experience of having a single search field someplace, right?
Yes, absolutely. And with this new search behavior, there is not so much a performance difference between this one and the old one. But if you are searching over a huge amount of text, millions of rows, maybe you would like to take a look to Oracle text, because that will be another kind of problem.
Right. One of the questions, I believe John is already answering this, was, you can hide a facet. How do you then go and show that facet again? So
nice. We can go to more filters, and you can select any facet that has the display toggling attribute. If it was hidden, you will get it here, and after that you can select it, and your facet will be displayed. So now it was the account manager, if I'm not incorrect, and now you can see it again, and you can hide it with the context menu.
All right. There's a question here, from Amin Adatya. I'm not sure if I understand it fully. Are there any for Apex 21.x, especially for CSS? So I'm not sure if maybe you can post the question again. I'm not sure if I fully understand it. Another question here from Mohammedul Islam. Have facet search, do they have search suggestions
Oh, that's an interesting one. And we have been taking a look to that feature. We already are aware that it could be a nice improvement. So it's on the list of possible improvement for faceted search.
All right.
But at the moment, there's not. So,
yep. Hey, that's quite a lot of engagement, especially around the search behavior. I think this is a feature that people are really going to like because it just makes it so much more natural, right? Like
absolutely.
when you're searching on the web, this is what you sort of expect. So, hey, thanks for the terrific demo, Alexis. Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Shakib. A few more minutes. So we've got a few more minutes here. Please do ask your questions. Like we'll be here. You can ask them in the Q&A portion, and I'll make sure that we answer them. In the meantime, of course, I'll go back to my slides for a bit. All right. So, of course, you can always go to apex.oracle.com/office hours. You can watch all the recordings there. And we're doing a 5-part series on what's new in Apex 22.1. So today we just saw the second of part 2, so part 2 of 5. Next week, we're going to be talking about the updated new and improved components, REST-enabled SQL query for REST data sources, easier application installations in the app gallery, and there's just a whole lot more. So back to back, week after week, we're going to have these office hours running and really just give you, everything that's new in Apex 22.1. So please do visit the Apex website. Go to apex.oracle.com and you'll see a see what's new button on the homepage. From there, you can see all the features. There's actually feature highlight videos for many of these things. So you can go and watch those to sort of learn how the features, how the feature works, to get an overview of how what's new. And also, please do go and, try these features out. You can go to apex.oracle.com, sign into your workspace. If you don't have one, it'll just take a few minutes to sign up for it. And then you can try out all the things that we've demoed here. And that's it. So again, I thank you all for attending today's office hours. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I wish you all a good day. Thanks.